Before I get into that, I'm going to make myself comfortable. I'm going to get rid of some of the stuff I've been carrying around in my pocket. And I'd like to invite you to get comfortable as well, because this is not going to be a speech. This is going to be a dialogue. So bear with me while I imagine something. I'm going to imagine that this is a Red Bull, because it's been a long day. And I'd like to invite you to imagine with me, not only that whatever you're drinking is maybe also an energy drink, so cheers, here's to you. Cheers. But imagine a world where loyalty does not cost an arm and a leg, where you could use a system that has basic loyalty functionality baked into it, the ability to drive direct bookings by enticing guests who may come to your website or be so-called up funnel and seeing brand information with bespoke, distinct, real-time dynamic rates and enticed to book direct if they register. Doesn't have to cost anything. Imagine a world where legacy systems, legacy business cases are starting to fall apart and are opening up opportunities to do things differently. And imagine a world where small individual companies and hotels, like many of you here, could leverage the same technologies and tools and strategies to compete with those brands that are entering your market and growing. So I'd like to tell you a bit of a story, but to answer the question, how do we do strategy and innovation at Sabre? Sabre is an American company, obviously, but we are also a very local and regional company. And that's one of the reasons why I'm with Sabre. I started out my career actually in the lighting industry as a lighting technician. Hello. And came to Europe as a backpacker, and I'll tell that story in a moment. But I got into the travel industry by owning a travel agency. And back in the 90s, I started an internet travel agency, one of the very first actually, and created a booking engine, which turned out to be the first booking engine. And at the time, I wasn't planning to build a booking engine and be an OTA. I was just planning to service my guests who weren't able to come to my travel agency better. So using technologies, trying to think differently and think out of the box. We have taken a similar approach at Sabre. And the reason I came to Sabre is through an acquisition that Sabre did about 5.5 years ago of one of their regional competitors, a company called Trust International, where I was Chief Product Officer and responsible for product and innovation and strategy. So the way we do that at Sabre is by taking that local knowledge of the regions, the marketplaces, and making sure that we're not taking an American approach and trying to force that across the world, but really making sure that we understand the local markets and deliver solutions to those individual travelers through you, our hoteliers, but solutions to help you in your day-to-day operations to drive those guests and create that amazing experience. So my title was, and still sort of is strategy and innovation, but just recently we've shifted the organization so that we actually have a very much more distinct focus on the EMEA region and on the APAC region versus the US, but also specifically for my role to make you successful in Central and Eastern Europe. So that's what I'm here for today, to help you be successful. So do we, Sabre, do we only power the Wyndhams of the world? Where's she gone? Oh, she's outside taking photos. Do we only power the Wyndhams and the branded properties of the world? We power 40,000 hotels globally. No, we don't. Any guesses, what percent of our customers, be it based on revenue or customer number, what percent of our customers is actually individual properties or unbranded? Ideas? Come on, I want to hear you guys. Come on, let me hear your voices. Are you awake? Yes? All right, thank you. Numbers, shout out some numbers. What percent does Sabre service of individual customers? 5, nope, higher. I heard a 25, was that here? 12, no, I heard 50. Exactly, close to 50%. So we're not just for the big guys, we're here for the little guys too. And we have proven solutions that help anybody who is interested to create those unique guest experiences and drive the direct bookings, but also to automate operational systems when using things like OTAs, like Expedia, Booking.com. But today the story is about keeping pace with the changes that we are faced with. And there's nothing certain except change. We've heard a little bit about 5G, mobile, always on, instant gratification. 5 billion mobile phones worldwide, 24/7. Expectations are shifting, not only by the capabilities that consumers have, but also by the expectations that are being set by other brands outside of travel. Amazon drives 35% of their overall sales through what? What does Amazon do really well? Personalization, recommendation engines. People who bought this also bought that. Over a third of their revenue is driven through personalizations, hyper-personalization. The customers expect that wherever they go, also in travel. Choice, speed. How many of you have ever bought something at Starbucks? Come on, people, more than that. Of course you have. How many of you have regularly, or your favorite drink at Starbucks is a tall, soya, skinny, something, something with this and that and whatever, whatever, whatever? Nope, no hands? Of course not. Oh, there you go, there's one. Thank you for being honest. Now, many of you are probably like me. I go to Starbucks often whenever I can. And I will buy an Americano. What's an Americano? It's a double espresso with hot water. But it's my double espresso with hot water. I configured it out of those 87,000 choices that I have. And that's why I'm willing to pay $8 for a double espresso and some hot water. Netflix. Who has Netflix? Who watches Netflix? You two ladies, turn to each other. Do you think that your Netflix is similar? Do you have the same Netflix? No, because there is no one Netflix. There are 33 million different versions of Netflix. Hyper-personalization. Guest expectations are being driven by these non-travel, primarily retail, and online brands. But let's take a bigger step back. Let's not talk about today, because it's too easy to get caught up in, oh my God, what do I do? How do I do it? Let's look back and look at things that have started a movement, things that happened at one point in time and that led to a radical evolutionary change that disrupted entire industries or even governments and societies. Let's go back roughly 30 years. Now, some of you are way too young to know some of this, so bear with me. This guy you just met, this is me actually. Lots has changed since then, obviously. I ended up in Germany and I've eaten lots of schnitzel and drank lots of beer, so. But global travel was becoming a thing. 30 years ago, Interrail was at its peak. It was possible for a 19-year-old naive Canadian guy to buy a ticket and buy a backpack and go to foreign countries and travel the world. That wasn't possible before. And it has only gone bigger. Mobility. The world is becoming smaller. In 1989, the French and the Germans were battling it out. Who can go faster? My train goes 285 miles per hour. Mine goes 300 miles per hour. Now we're up to 360 miles per hour. But the speed record is being set. Time between different destinations was not a factor anymore. Oops, wrong way, sorry. Communication. Only 30 years ago were the first real mobile phones that you didn't have to carry a big brick with you becoming a thing. This is actually a young lady on a bus driving down the Autobahn in Germany in 1989. Not so long ago. And look where we are now. Who knows what CERN is? C-E-R-N? Yes, what is that? Hadron Collider, yes. That's the European Atomic, whatever, investigations, scientific thing. Who knows what happened in this building? I think probably that window top left up there in 1989. Yes, a young engineer called Tim Berners-Lee created, or invented, if you will, the internet. Only 30 years ago. What else happened in 1989 that has had radical influence and impact on industries? We heard a little bit about solar and coal and oil. 1989, Exxon Valdez crashed Alaska, wiped out an entire ecosystem. The oil and energy industry has never been the same. 1989, the US carriers introduced a smoking ban on all national and international flights. The tobacco industry has never been the same. 1989, the last mile of the Berlin Wall was completed. May 1989. Who knows what happened in September 1989? No? The wall fell. Communism gone. Not quite, but almost. So things happen gradually and then suddenly. And I believe, and we at Sabre, we believe that we're at a similar moment in time of gradual and suddenly. And I'd like to take a look at a different industry now for a moment, because there is an industry that has been through very similar changes and in these evolution of changes that I think we can learn a lot from and not fall into traps. Let's look at the retail industry. So Aldi, obviously a thing. Everybody knows what Aldi is? Yep, all right. So Aldi in 1989 had one single flavor of yogurt. I don't know, it was maybe strawberry or banana, but only one single flavor. Aldi sold more yogurt in Germany than all other retailers combined. Aldi had 3 times the ROI of all other retailers by doing a different approach. They started their international expansion in 1989, but they were faced with headwinds. They were doing great, but they were faced with headwinds. Another company in the same vein, if you will, was a German company called Otto Versand. Versand means mail order system. So Otto had a brochure, a catalog that you could look through and order stuff, clothes, appliances, toys, everything. And actually, I went to work there as a young man. This is, if you will, the online equivalent or the offline equivalent of what today would be an online marketplace. 2 kilograms heavy, 1,000 pages. They were even faster than Amazon is today. You could order appliances, TVs, washing machines, guaranteed delivery 48 hours later. But they face challenges as well. This is their shopping cart. This is your shopping cart. Each one of these boxes represents a customer's order, a personalized order shopping cart. Items picked, packaged, and delivered. But it was highly streamlined. But of course, along came the internet. And both Aldi and Otto needed to stop and rethink, reevaluate the fundamentals of their business. Can we continue with the framework, the architecture, the fundament of what we do and how we do it into the future, or must we change? And what we've discovered, what we've seen, in retail especially, is that these headwinds that retail has been facing have caused a massive drop in one of the key KPIs, which is return on assets. Equivalent in hospitality is the gross operating profit per available room. So your bottom line. How much do I actually earn cash in my pocket for every available room? Now what we see here, these gray bars are typical recession periods. And retail will go up, the return on assets will go up, a recession will come and it will go down. But then it will recover and go back up again. And what we're seeing over here now, that the return on assets is radically declining, although we are not yet in a recession. But the recession is coming. And why is that? Digitally native businesses have started up. The Amazons, etc. Online-only retailers and marketplaces are taking away their pie. Discount players and off-price companies, and business models supported by ancillary sales. And this is a key one that I'm going to talk a little bit more about today, ancillary sales. All of these things have been happening in the past 10 years in hospitality. And it is time for us to stop and rethink and reevaluate some of the underlying core fundamental understandings of how we define what customer experience is, what a product is, and how our distribution systems aren't going to be suited for the future. So what did Otto do? They've been in business for 70 years, and they're going stronger than ever. They have 2.8 million products, close to 7,000 brands. The revenue has increased massively, and in 2009, they went 100% online. They're creating a marketplace and providing partners the ability to access their customer base and do all of the fulfillment for them. Similarly, Aldi has gone beyond just Europe and expanded globally. They are now in 16 countries. They've diversified massively. They've gone beyond food. They're new to clothing, toys, appliances, multimedia. And I don't need to tell you this because you probably get the brochures at home as well. They've also gone into our front yard, into travel. Now they're moving exclusively online and penetrating other markets. Autoversant sells more appliances than Amazon does, for example. So personalization is a new expectation. 3/4 of customers are likely to purchase more if you know their names and more information about them. We heard from Revenate earlier some of those figures. Personalization also drives impulse purchases. What can we learn from retail? Why does retail have those racks at the checkout? How many of you have ever bought something at the checkout from one of those racks? Obviously cigarettes if you smoke, or gum or candy if you have kids, but they also have cycles of different things. Seasonal, Easter, blah, blah, blah. Those are the impulse purchases that we can do a lot if we have the systems to offer up the products that you theoretically have. And intelligent personalization, to know a little bit about your guest and to do that recommendation very intelligently like Amazon or Netflix does, will impact your bottom line. It will grow your conversion rate or increase your conversion rate significantly. It'll sell more things at a higher price, and it will give you a higher share of wallet. So what's share of wallet? Your guests have a finite amount of money. Your guests may choose not to travel and to buy a big HD TV if the World Soccer Cup is coming up next year, for example. Your guests may choose not to stay at your restaurant if there's something cool happening downtown. But what if you could capture more of that share of wallet if you were able to offer them some of those things? You don't need to buy an HD TV. Come to my location, have an awesome experience. You can watch it in our public viewing with all of your friends and fans, or watch it in your room, and you can also have those same experiences. You don't have to go out, or if you do go out, purchase it through us. So, in hospitality, we're seeing much of the same trends, same risks. And if we look at the current landscape of distribution, it is very, very broken. Way too many interfaces, way too many systems to actually manage and interface with and manage data. And the way we have defined what the product is, not as a room even, that would be almost great, but actually as a rate for a duration to which a room is associated, full stop. Sure, there's attributes, sure, there's policies, sure, there's a price tag to it, but that makes it very difficult to personalize. That makes it very difficult to engage with a guest if he's looking for something that is unique from an experience perspective. So we need to throw off those constraints of what the definition of a product is. Over 50%, actually 61% of consumers would be open to spending more money if an ancillary product or service complemented their main purchase. So we are piloting with a customer called Langham what we call intelligent retailing, where the guest in the funnel will be shown not the room or the rate first, but actual ancillary services, which entices them to come in. And now we're flipping the model, because now 61% of those guests who have come into the funnel saying, oh my gosh, I'm gonna go to Singapore, and I'm going to go to this spa because it is so awesome, 61% are now willing to pay more for the room because the room has become an ancillary that enhances their spa purchase. But we're seeing business models being disrupted. Non-traditional players are disrupting. HomeAway, Airbnb, they're not hotels, but there are competitors. 18% private accommodation intermediaries, that's growing to 23%. They're going to take 20% of the market share. Airbnb sold more room nights than Expedia did in Q1 last year. You may have heard of the announcements from Expedia. Tanking, layoffs. Let's see how much more Airbnb sells than Expedia in this quarter. But the adoption of private accommodation websites is driven by those younger travelers who are the digital natives, who are shopping at Starbucks, who are on Netflix, who want this personalization. So we need to do something to engage with them. But there are threats to our classic business model. We've heard a lot about brands today, and as a small hotel, you're lost if you don't brand, which I don't buy into that one. But Expedia and Booking.com are very much eating a lot of the hotel's opportunities because you can't get past them. Well, with the new systems, you can. Driving direct bookings is definitely the most important thing for you to reduce your costs and engage with guests higher up funnel before they make that purchase decision and to get away from the OTAs. And Google and Amazon are coming strong. Any guesses how much Expedia paid Google last year for advertising? Anybody? Let's do it in billions of US dollars. 3.7, there you go. Aha, a lot of money. No wonder they take 15% commission. But you don't have to do that. Google has evolved quite radically over the past couple of years. Again, it's been a gradual evolution, but we are now at a sudden phase where it is very profitable and very realistic for hotels, branded or not, to use Google on their own with the meta search. We've gone from what's called the golden triangle, the layout of Google, their hotel ads, to the F shape. We're now in what we call the butterfly effect, where they've introduced on the right-hand side a very predominant, relevant hotel offering for people who are searching for a stay. Even if they're not specifically searching for a hotel, they will get this right-hand side. And that drives a huge amount of click-throughs and meta transactions. We have customers who have seen 100% growth in meta transactions year over year. 50% of all users on Google are clicking through into the so-called graph panel. This is a European statistic. We see what's called a return on ad spend for our customers in the European market. For every $1 you spend with us to do marketing on Google and using our technologies to bring that guest into the funnel and convert, you're getting $8 or €8 of return. So an 8-to-1 return on advertising in these meta search. And meta search is very much hyper-personalizable. You can define different campaigns and prices and products and tone of voice by country, feeder markets, length of stay, check-in days of the week, booking window, where they're coming from, and what device they're using. Now, the question of who's winning online, because always OTAs will continue to have a massive reach. But we are seeing that in the European Union, that this growth continues to shift towards hoteliers. So in Europe, we're currently at 33%, and we expect that to grow 2% year on year as these technologies become more adopted and meta search grows. But it's still challenging to distribute your rates in this very complex landscape, not only because there's multiple systems that you may be using today instead of a single system that automates it for you, but because when you distribute to OTAs, your rates don't stay on the OTA. If you distribute to Meta and wholesale, they don't stay there. There's OTA affiliate networks. OTAs are bidding against each other on meta search. Wholesale B2B redistribution, and TMCs that book from the OTAs. And now even OTAs that are publishing your rates that you've given them into the GDS, competing with your own very expensive GDS channel. So very complex distribution landscape. Oops, that was too fast. So anyway, 90% of travelers worldwide say they expect a personalized experience, and roughly 3/4 say that there is currently no retailer that actually fulfills those requirements for them. There is no too personalized. People want, expect, and are willing to pay far more for more engagement and more personalization. Now, there are literally millions, billions of different ways to package up your room and rate, your products. Hotel room and rate combinations, there's over 1 billion ways to package it. And then there's over 100,000 ways to actually sell it. Now that's complex in itself. If we hold on to the legacy way of defining what a product is. Imagine the added complexity if you now have to start selling individual pieces of experience and trying to package those together. Absolutely impossible with a legacy way of thinking and legacy technologies. And that's why we at Sabre have embarked on a journey that I'd like to invite you to join us on, if you're willing, to think differently, to throw off those legacy constraints, to leverage partners who are experts in acquisition marketing and have data insights that is holistic and hospitality driven. Wyndham is one of our first who is leveraging this, but also take a holistic approach to that direct distribution prioritization, to customize the design and delivery of your brand experience as you engage with individual guests, to increase the engagement, create new triggers for conversations, and boost that direct revenue. And obviously it's about speed. We heard about 5G, but 5G isn't there yet. You need to have cloud-native solutions that will deliver that seamless, fast experience that customers are expecting, driven by the Netflixes and the Amazons of the world. And you need to have knowledge, real time at your fingertips to make those decisions. And as machine learning and artificial intelligence is introduced, systems that will be able to leverage that data. The ability for you as individual small single properties or small regional brands to actually use systems to reach the corporate world and do those RFPs that the big boys are doing and talking about, to distribute into the GDS and do marketing, but to automate very manual processes, perhaps in the tour operator distribution that you have today. And to elevate your position within the travel agency community, to get in front of those high quality, high loyal distribution channels like travel agencies. So we're focused on 3 things: helping you move into the retail world, into this new paradigm, to improve your distribution and automation of systems, and to help fulfill your guests' wishes and requirements. And we believe it's time to think outside the room. And with that, we mean to monetize everything that you have and your guests could want from you. To not continue to sell just rooms, but to become a retailer in the true sense of it. New ways, as I've been saying, to drive top-line revenue, to drive increased share of wallet, but higher profitable, higher margin solutions and products, and create more loyal guests. So today, we define things like rooms as living spaces. We have working spaces. Theoretically, we'd love to sell experiences and services, amenities. But up until now, there have not been systems to allow you to do that. The way we have re-engineered our system as a cloud-native distribution system, and we're testing that with the likes of the Wyndhams and the Langhams of the world, is to leverage all of these capabilities and not only allow the hoteliers to manage these things, but to plug into inventory sources, generic inventory sources, and have hoteliers pull them into their distribution channels and make them available to consumers. This is today ancillary services, a $1.2 trillion marketplace. Now the airlines have embarked down this path very early. And we, Sabre, we power a lot of airlines just like we do hotels. So we've seen a lot of what works and what doesn't work, and we've built our systems very much along the best practice of the airline world. The mediated by digital products marketplace or digital platforms is going to be over 60 trillion large in a few years. So we'd like to invite you to join us on this journey And I'll leave you with a few thoughts on best practices. One, find as one-stop as possible solution provider. We need to move away from disparate systems and lowest common denominator connectivities. We need to move to a real-time world of dynamic pricing, dynamic guest engagement, and dynamic product creation. Understand and compare your offerings with other market participants. Analyze your offering from both the travel agency community and also the consumer perspective, and introduce retailing opportunities to increase your revenue. So, we're a few minutes away from cocktails. It's been a long day. I had my Red Bull. You haven't, but I'm going to give you some energy at the moment. But first of all, we think that the industry is ready for this. And after I play this short video and get you all up and dancing, I'll obviously take questions, but we'd invite you to give us your take. We're not here to talk at you or talk to you. We're here to listen and work with you. We'd like to understand, what are your pain points? Do you think the industry is ready for this? And what do you think it's going to take? Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Olaf. Really very optimistic video and giving us more energy in the end of the day. We've got several questions. Don't have a hope that we will just put out of the stage without any questions.
All right.
And give me the sign if you have the question from the hall, please. Do you have some rising hands? Okay. So the first question is about the return of investments. Is any kind of possibility to calculate the returns on investments that made in such things like, for instance, Netflix in the hotel room? How to calculate the return on such kind of investments on technologies in the hotels?
So it is possible. Obviously, when you embark on a change, it is very important not just to run and change and then afterwards say, how did I do? You need to define what is it you're going to measure and understand what are the data points that have led up to that change and then how did it change afterwards. So I don't know what ROI hotels might have by introducing Netflix in the room. We don't do that. What we do is introduce new capabilities for automating systems in hotels, right? I need to load rates to the OTAs. It takes me 6 minutes per rate change per person per OTA. That's 200 people, 5,000 rates, 20 OTAs. That's like a whole man year. No, with our system, you press a button and it's done, right? So we can calculate those things. We can calculate when hotels have moved from one manual system or using one product of either our competitors or our own systems to say, now I'm going to start using this capability or this function, or I'm going to change my rate strategy the way you have recommended it because my business plan is to grow direct more. We can calculate those things, and we've got a multitude of business cases and use cases and white papers on our website that we can obviously share. So there are ways to calculate it. And when we engage with hotels and properties, what we don't do is say, it's one size fits all, and here's our tools and have fun and good luck. We engage with our guests, with our customers, to very intimately understand what's your goal, how are you doing today, what are your KPIs, what is your investment, what are your technology costs, and very often what we do is we configure out of the multitude of solutions that we have an almost personalized solution for that brand with their objectives. And pretty much in every single case, we've grown revenue, we've reduced costs, and we've seen an ROI.
Okay, thank you. And the second question is about the historical hotels. When they have the main value on the service, and how to combine the traditional approach in the hotel service with the innovation, especially for such kind of the hotels with the huge story and who are the trophies of the business?
I think that's a great question, because, like I said, we at Sabre, and I'm very humbled, firstly to be here, but also to work for Sabre, because we see a broad range of customer types and strategies and different properties. And one thing that I get most excited about are those hotels or brands that have a story, that have a history, that they have a character, right? They have something that is unique. And it really gets me excited and us excited when we're able to help those very unique stories be portrayed in such a way that the guest will find it first, right? In this huge universe of offers and whatnot. First, how can you make sure that that brand story is captured and digitized, if you will, but also put out there so that someone will find it and be enticed by it and pulled into the funnel. So how you need to have an end-to-end solution. And it starts with your whole marketing message and having an aligned from your digital marketing activities, your brand campaigns, a seamless, consistent, cohesive message and branding and language across the entire funnel, if you will, from digital marketing to landing pages, to your booking engine, to the guest experience, to the call center. Now, the challenge is, again, here, one size can't fit all. Not all guests want to see and hear and find the same thing. So that's where systems like ours have evolved over the past 10 years, or actually the past 3 years, to be able to create multiple different campaigns and messages and have very different ways of guest experience as they come in. So our booking engine, for example, can be set up so that it dynamically changes how many steps the guest has to go through, depending on what campaign he's come from and how high his likelihood is of converting. So someone who has come from a specific campaign and or meta search, they have 2 steps to booking. Confirm that you're liking what you're seeing, put your data in, done. Someone who is shopping around and been on my website and they've looked at 17 different things, we'll show them personalized offers, but it may take 3 or 4 or 5 steps.
Okay. Thank you, Olaf. Do we have the questions from the room? Okay, so please present the applauses to our last speaker.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your patience. And I've got a few